What is up, YouTube? Today we've got another Legend account review featuring one of the, I guess, like my good friends, longtime friends, Ace Trainer. If you guys don't know who he is, I'll pop his socials on the screen here. He does stream on Twitch, and he is a content creator for Epic 7, an official one in the content creator Discord. And he's a good friend of mine for a long time and helped me a lot on my way to getting my first Legend frame. So I do want to bring the account in the showcase so that you guys can see what's going on, and also ask him some questions and see his thoughts on the meta and his units and everything. And if you guys do enjoy the Legend account reviews, please consider dropping a like, comment for the algorithm, subscribe if you haven't already, and let's jump straight into it. So my first question to you is, what are your main takeaways this season?
Mhm.
Like overall.
Well, my main takeaways is just that it's a very debuff centric meta. The previous season that just happened, right? It's all about playing to protect your Peira to press S3, or for your Tenebria to the light Tenebria to then tank hits and stabilize your draft. Debuff them, win the game. So you're playing a lot of like splash damage, right? Artifact damage, Tenebria S2, and it's a lot about just playing your draft in a way where you have those win cons of stopping their buttons, protecting yours, and stabilizing them that way. So yeah, it is like HP year heavy,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah.
And obviously there throughout the season there was a really big, you know, I guess change, a lot of big changes with, like, obviously Rinak, Litika's power throughout the season, and then Amid, and then Aram coming out. So how do you feel like this season was compared to other seasons? Like, was this like one of the more difficult ones, or how did you feel?
Well, compared to the season before this, where I struggled a lot fighting Flan and Ilynav, I would say this season felt slightly better for me because it was all about, I mean, those aggro units you're mentioning, ARAM, Rinak, I just pre-ban, right? I just couldn't find an answer to. But ARAM, AMID, stuff like that, it's very honest damage that you're trying to tank out and then press either your Peira button, your Luna button, or your Tenebrious button. So
Mm-hmm.
it's like a tank centric sort of response into those drafts, and so
Mm-hmm.
it kind of made more sense to me. So I would say it's kind of a bit of a harder season, but not too bad if you pray for some good first pick advantage at times, right? Because
Mm,
stealing that Tenebria was huge to be able
mm,
to fight anything except the Amid cleave.
mm. Totally, I totally agree. And you're probably one of the players that I've one of the first reviews that I've done where you actually leave Harsetti open. And
Mhm.
obviously, as someone who doesn't like or enjoy playing against Harsetti, as do I think a lot of other people, how do you think your
Yeah.
experience was playing against Harsetti this season? Do you feel like um, she's gotten any better to play against, or worse to play against, or play with? How do you feel about her at this current state of the game?
I think ARAM introduces a layer of resilience versus her, but it's not completely, it's still speed RNG, right? At the end of the day, it is just like the sequencing of your turns really matter, and Flan becomes the premier unit against Harsetti or with Harsetti, because
Hmm.
as soon as one of your allies get a turn, Flan allows you to boost up your entire team with either a dual boosting Flan up to then S3,
Hmm.
or you're just kind of sitting there waiting for your Flan turn. And guess
Mm,
what? If you're the Harsetti player or they're the Harsetti player and you have Flan, and then they're forced to react with a Solitaria pick, well, now
hmm.
they have Harsetti and Solitaria, and that's
Hmm.
very little damage,
Hmm.
and they don't have speed RNG advantage. Even
Hmm.
if, let's say, their Solly gets the turn before your Flan, they're playing a 50-50 into your
Hmm.
to S3 your Solly and stuff, right?
Hmm.
Or S3 your Flan. So you always still get the tempo and force them to react to it when Flan's up. And then I also realized with Harsetti open that, like, okay, well, you have ARAM and then you have this ARAM Aiden synergy, right? So it's just units like that, right? The premier units being self CR boosters or Peira boosting up the entire team. So yeah.
Hmm. Yeah, so it sounds like a lot of the glaring issues of playing with and against Harsetti are still very real, even though they've tried to release like, so like unit after unit after unit to address it. So
Yes.
hopefully in the future that will change. Now, last question before we kind of go into all your units here. Were there any kind of like him fathers, as in like, hardest matchups for you this season that you felt like were like really difficult to beat?
Yeah, I would say it's the Lifton first picking Hua into just beating you down with chip damage. So it's the very first pick Hua, right? And then he just plays like ML Lua, him father, and then that's chip damage, right? And then there's Luna, him father, with S2 chip damage, and you can have FCC. The crazy thing is, you can have FCC, but he just grabs the tempo and like plays those bruisers so comfortably that it doesn't even matter that you have FCC to reduce the splash damage, man. But so that's someone who I feared, and also Higa Wolf, because he had the AMID draft, right? But once the AMID draft had certain niche cheeses, right? Mostly to deal with the strays, with the form of Wukong and Yulha being protected by Aureus Ilynav, right? Those
Hmm.
cheeses happened, and then he just pivoted to Aram to play Aram strays or Aram Celine. So I think yeah, he was one of the more flexible players that I couldn't really figure out even at the end. So.
For sure. Yeah. I think a lot of people will also, I mean, those are two people I also had trouble playing against, so totally agree. Now, with all the kind of pre-questions aside, I'll give you the floor, and however you want to start it, take us away, and I might kind of chime in anytime to ask you some questions.
Yeah, so because this meta was so debuff centric and like focused on picking those neutrals, maybe I'll start by like in terms of priorities. Well, my pre-bans were always Rinak, always, and depending on if I'm first pick or second pick, I was pre-banning Barunka because I couldn't let them have it,
Mm.
or I was pre-banning Tenebria if I had the lucky chance to play Barunka first pick. Now, I guess with Rinak, my reason for just pre-banning her is she enables so much, right? Like, she forces the opponent to pick FCC, and we know that FCC has weaknesses in terms of dying to DJB or dying to like Peira plus more damage later on, right? So she's a very honest hero,
Hmm.
and so the fact that you're forced to pick as a response to Rinak just felt bad. And Rinak can allow your Tenebria to bridge up, right, with the Umbra cheese. And, she still did true damage with her S2, her S3 penetrating and her S1 penetrating. So it is just a menace, but we'll start off with my priority, Barunka, right? Like,
Hmm.
a lot of people were playing the Rocket Punch counter variants, but I found that like when I was having the luxury of first picking Basarunka, it
Hmm.
was mostly versus like amid cleavers. And so, you could have Rocket Punch and once in a while cheese out the kill that way, but it was really important that I could have her tank hits even when Luna sealed her, or the strays actually isn't able to kill her, and then I'm fighting like a Yufine strays.
Hmm.
And so it was just a lot more important that she just had the bulk and less RNG, just guaranteed
Hmm.
value, right?
Hmm.
I would say another unit that was very important is the Tenebria. Like we were saying, where if I was first pick, then I would pre-ban her. But if I was second pick, I just have to let her through because Boss Barunka was too hard to deal with. Now, most Tenebrias ended up dropping their speed if they're not a fast player, because you're just protecting the Stene, right? Like, it's the classic protect the Stene. And I found that this like mixture of effectiveness and speed and decent bulk was enough. Like I was at 260 speed, and then I sometimes would die, and I would just keep tweaking her speed, and now this is where she's at.
Hmm.
Um, Decently optimized gears, and like some people, I saw some Korean demons with Aria third pick versus Tenebria, and so you can't really skimp out on the effectiveness, right?
Hmm.
So that's where I put her in terms of gear priority. And then
So for
obviously
someone,
just
just stop you real quick back to Tenebria. For
yeah.
someone who is looking to build Tenebria and they're kind of contemplating if they should go for like a POV or a book or a high speed or like a slower speed, what would you say are kind of like the thresholds that someone that's looking to build Tenebria should look for?
I would say like if you can have your Tenebria be 200 effectiveness and you have like multiple speed openers hovering like above 300, then you could
Mm-hmm.
build Tenebria at like 280 with Umbra to even cut if even if you're fighting like a Yufine tank down or something, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I think book is okay if you let Zeo open and you're wanting to kind of like cheese it out versus Zeo, and obviously then the speed build is still good, like maybe
Mm-hmm.
280, 290 on book,
Mm-hmm.
because if you get pushed back, you can still kind of push forward through like your CR boosters and cleanse, right? But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, if you can't achieve those and you don't have multiple, maybe like 3 or 4 300 speed units, then I would just say like go for a build like mine, where immunity is pretty much necessary because you're just trying to tank it out and
Mm-hmm.
synergize with your Aureus, right? And then Proof of Valor is okay. But I will say like don't focus too much on Tenebria now, because with the upcoming season and the units they've buffed, specifically Senya, MLK and Ida, those units have made it a lot easier to shake off Tenebrious buffs because
Mm-hmm.
they all self cleanse and they punish units that are drafts that are taking too many turns, right?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, that's a
Yeah.
great point.
Um, okay. So also really crucial in the season was like a pretty fast immunity Peira for me. I've put that gear on Conk now, but basically you're wanting a Peira that is like a Swiss Army knife, right? Because I let Harsetti open, I'm trying to get a good amount of bulk while still having like 300 speed for normal matchups. Even if like, let's say maybe a unit pushes me back, like ML Poly, or they risk the Zeo 50/50, you still want enough to speed to basically compensate for that disruption, right? So I still have Tooth because I think damage is so necessary, chip damage in the current meta. And but I was running like a bit of a faster build, and yeah, it was like 300, I think. I'm just trying to get the gears for it. But yeah,
So what?
like I think having 3K attack and just some, think of, I don't know. I don't know how to adjust it right now. But anyways, like I think having 3K attack and enough bulk, and at that time, Conk wasn't the prio and she was, it allows you to, yeah, just like always have that chip damage even after pressing your S3. She's not there as like a sweet miracle cleanser. She's more so there for just supplementary damage to eventually win you the game. Like her tempo and her ability to supplement damage is so insane that like even if FCC is reducing that splash damage, yeah, I think this is the build that I was having before. But even with FCC reducing splash damage, because she can keep taking turns
Mm,
and get to her death break on her S1 before the chip damage happens, right?
mm-hmm.
It's so crazy how much her plus another unit can end up just winning the game, even though it feels like it's such an uphill battle, right?
Mm-hmm.
Pear is just
Yeah,
one of those units.
yeah. So for someone who doesn't have two Uberiuses, right? So someone that's
Yes.
watching this that has only Uberius for Amiki, and they have to play Peira on like a Sweet Miracle. Do you think that she is still as good? Would you say that her build should still be the same? Should she go for a way tankier build? What do you think?
I think she would have to go for way tankier build, because then you're just playing for Frenzy 3/4, right? You're just wanting her to be surviving more so that she, even if she's controlled, she can have just that little bit of chip damage, and hopefully they waste some attacks on her with her tankiness, and then your other unit can supplement damage and break through their draft, right?
Mm,
Um,
got it.
so I would just go like maybe 2K attack and just full bulk if you have to be Sweet Miracle.
Mm-hmm. Got it.
Next, I would say, oh, I'm so glad that I got two Abyssal Yufines and bought one from the Galaxy shop when it was like a few months ago, because I think this meta really encouraged you to have Aureus Yufine, right? Like everyone was playing Peira first pick, and if you preemptively pick the Elbrus Yufine, it's like you have to go mid 3, and then you might not have a unit that cleanse maybe Achates or Luna that disrupts, right? Or maybe some other win con that allows you to just respond to their draft, right? So if you can early pick the Aureus Yufine, on the other hand, they might react in a way where they're still debuffing you, and then you can still play to 3P a more impactful unit. So Aureus Yufine just really checked that Peira, right? It's not a hard counter by any means, but it eliminated the pivot options. It reduced their chance of going like Amid stuff, Aram, Litica, Luna, all those units. They have very subtle, Luna has very subtle CR manipulation interactions, but like those are all checked by the Aureus Yufine, and then you can respond to the rest of your draft accordingly, right?
Are you in agreement that if someone only has one Yufine, they should just put it on prot set on Aureus?
Yes, I think so. I think so.
Okay.
Because I think we were talking about this right in the last week of the season, where I was like, are people just playing like Elbrus Yufine 1-2? Isn't that greedy? And you said that it could flex into any draft, but I realized like I was dying so much if I was playing Elbrus Yufine 1-2. I was dying to Mort, Flan, Tori, and Luna. So I was dying to a lot of flexible pivots, right? So I realized like, okay, maybe it's not the sauce. So I tried it and then I stopped it,
Yeah, the Prot Yufine was definitely a game changer for sure. Like the Aureus one is just so strong in this meta.
Yeah. What else did I want to mention from this meta? Oh yeah, another huge change is putting Ilynav on Prot, because we're talking about these Amit cleave, right, or Aram cleave, and I think Aram has the benefits to playing ML Celine and Luna better, right? Because you have clear synergy with ML Luna sealing the Yufine, and then Aram being able to boost up an ally to 100% CR, and this sort of combo disruption snowballs in the draft, right? But versus the Amid cleaves, like I think Ilynav on prot was necessary just so that you can end up cheesing them with the rest of your draft. So yeah, especially if they stole the Yufine, Ilynav 3P was just the safest Aureus option to basically keep the Holy Sack Yufine anchor in check versus those Amid cleave. So I think this was the thing I changed from Destro, and I haven't switched back just because now Senya is buffed, and she becomes a really good anchor alongside your Conqueror early pick to discourage Senya and to discourage Yufine as well. So yeah. Oh, another unit that I kept tweaking the build of, Luna is actually one of the units that I freed from pre-bans 2 weeks before the season ended, because I kept talking to Winter Wish like, yo, how do I deal with these Aram cleavers and these Litica Amid players? And I realized like Luna would be helping me a lot more than she would be hurting me, because think of it this way: if they play Luna, if they commit to Luna, they're committing to less damage. They're more so committing to debuffs to then where you can actually play your buttons, right? You can play the rest of your draft, because she doesn't do that much damage early on. She's just sealing your team, and then you get to play your cleansers, right? So I realized like I just kept trying to copy KHM's build. I ended up landing on like a good combination of tankiness and speed. So at least you want to be not too slow to the point where if you're S2ing with her and the opponent has Yufine, that they're just gonna Giga Lap you, right? So this was the build I ended up on, because oftentimes when you're the Luna player, you're needing to survive Celine Soulburn once, right? You're needing to survive probably 2 Celine hits, because if they have Wind Rider Celine, they Soulburn you once, they see that you're not dead yet, but you're close to dying. So then they just S1 again, they go into stealth, right? That's the most common interaction when you're the sort of reactive player versus their aggression, right? So I realized like, okay, I need to settle on like this bulkiness, and it served me pretty well. Immunity is obviously necessary, but besides that, like I'm not trying to race anyone. I'm just trying to have her do some splash damage and disrupt their draft, right?
I think something I want to kind of add on to what you've said, which is a great point, is on a build like this, if you have like a Guardian Ice Crystal present, right, like later into your draft, you're also able to stabilize versus those Celine players. If they do go for like a greedy, double S1 play with a Nimble, then you can kind of punish with the Guardian Ice Crystal, which is why a build like this is so superior.
Yes. And if I try to push faster, maybe like be 280, I'm still taking the most awkward of turns versus Peira or Conk in this meta, right? Like Peira's going to shake it off. Conk is going to get her whole combo through. Like, what is the point of 280, 290? Right? It's just risky regardless. So. Another build that I constantly tweaked before being pretty satisfied even now, speaking of the Celine. So this is a greedy Celine. But here's the thing. In the last season, before now that we have more CR boosters, honestly, it was only Peira boosting the entire allies, right? It wasn't Conk. Now it's Conk as well, so things get more interesting. But last season, it was only Peira. So if you're fighting Peira and you have Aureus Yufine, if they slow down their draft to the point of picking Ilynav or picking FCC, right? You can always punish them by picking DJB 3P and Celine 4. Just fuck the bullshit, right? Because if you have Aureus in your draft and you have like another unit, let's say it's like, they go for Peira first pick and then you Luna Yufine, right? And then they slow down their draft. DJB Celine, you can just DJB always guarantees that your Celine is gonna be safe, and you already have Aureus, so you're always gonna be safe. And you discourage them from playing like Tori and stuff, right? So this sort of greedy Celine really discouraged their Aras Tori Korea drafts, and also their pivots when they saw that I am trying to disrupt them with Luna Yufine. So yeah, I didn't need the speed too much between 270 versus 250. I appreciated the damage so much because this allowed me to soulburn and be a greedy pig versus their Luna. So if they're slowing down too, to like I'm playing Peira and then they end up playing like Luna and then some FCC stuff, then yeah, this allowed me to two-shot the Luna, and so I'm still pretty happy with this build.
Yeah, I definitely think most players played more like a 270, 280, maybe even 290 Celine. So this is a nice tweak that you made to try to kill basically what you prepared that everyone else was preparing, right?
Yeah, exactly. Okay, now, another unit I want to show off because we were just talking about, his value in 3P, right? So he actually also has value as a second pick in your 2-3 if they play, let's say, maybe they're playing Luna plus Mitt and you're the Peira player, right? You can play DJB Aras before or DJB FCC just because you want to have a cleanse in case they pivot to Harsetti shenanigans, right? And you want to discourage them from openers, and DJB serves both purpose. So I put some of my best ER gear that was before on C Phantom Politis. I put it on DJB just because like, okay, well, I'm not playing Poly that much, and I realized Poly kept dying to like units like Luna or just Peira or DJB. So, I prefer to just play in a way that guarantees my damage. And so, yeah, him being 2-3 pickable or 3-4 pickable means that, okay, I really need to make sure he has the speed and the ER to deal with, let's say, if they're playing Poly, they're playing Conquer now even, right? But before it was, mostly the ER to deal with some Luas. But yeah, if you have the fast speed, even if you were fighting, let's say, Peira Yufine, right? If you have this speed, I would I would slam and be greedy and slam him and ML Celine still versus just hoping that my soul constellation and his fast speed allows my ML Celine to bridge. You know.
Mhm. I think it's a great point too because I also thought the same way in the last week where Sea Phantom Politis was seeing less and less play, and like,
Mhm.
why would I have like my Bastion of Hope on her, my fastest ER gear on her when I'm not really picking her? And
Yeah.
I think a lot of people like made some of these adjustments as well, and I feel like if you didn't notice and make these adjustments, and I feel like you were kind of like playing almost like a meta behind, right? Because Tenebria more
Yeah.
often than not was landing on Politis, like even if you had like ER releases and stuff like that. So definitely really nice change that you made to move that gear over to get a little bit more value out of the character.
Hmm. And I realized like if you steal DJB, even now, like I mean, you're not gonna see Tori right now in the meta, but before, like he was one of the most anti sort of tank down Tori unit that you could pick early on. You know.
Yeah, to kill the Tori
Okay.
Aras combo. Yeah.
Yes. What else that I want to show? Oh yeah, I mean, we all underestimated Aria, right? Like, I know my Aria is okay. If Lunel sees his Aria, he's gonna flame. If half of Veritas, they have better Arias, right? But I think we all underestimated like her presence last season. I think now she's not seeing as much play just because like what she checks Luna and Ida and that's it. But like hand guide does it better and also supplements damage, right? But yeah, like she was one of the only units to basically hold her own against greedy drafts where Harsetti was maybe still open, right? Because you can pick her, um, and you can fight DJB, you can fight Luna, you stop Peira's value as much, right? Because less souls to burn on the Peira S1, you stop like FCC's value as much. So she interacted with so many things, and I also like to hear your thoughts on like whether she was a high pile unit for you, if you were impressed by her or whatnot.
I think towards the end, like the last like 3 or 4 days, I tweaked my Arya
Yeah.
build to fight versus some Luna players because there for whatever reason there was so many more Lunas coming out in the last 3 days, and I was like, damn, like I really need to like beef up my Tori, I need to beef up my Arya, I need to beef up like my Belian, I need to beef up my Achates. I
Mm.
made like a second Achates on like a high speed tank build to deal with some of
Yeah.
these like really greedy Luna players, right? So I think towards the end, I got a lot more value out of her just because of the things that you mentioned, like forcing the soul burns to cost double, and the fact that she can kind of like 1v2, 1v3, sometimes like 1v4 some matches. And when you're
Yes.
putting her on three, or if you have her on like a four spot with Belian on three, you have so much effect resistance like for your entire team, right? I have a Bastion
Yeah.
from on my Achates, sometimes I'll have a Belian with like 150, I'll have release from
Mhm.
Aria, and then you just get so much value in resisting those like kind of control comps that you mentioned, like those Luna players when we're hovering over your Luna. So I
Yeah.
think towards the end she was really, really value, but throughout the season she was kind of, I guess, like not as impactful, for me at least.
Mhm. Okay. Yeah. Um. Okay. So we have Aria. Who else did I really want to mention? Oh yeah, we're talking about Belian. Like, dude, I realized versus so much Zeo cleaves, just 3-4 Belian plus Achates, man. Like, I
Yep.
had idols cheer Achates because I saw Light do that tech in the WC, and I'm like, oh yeah, that synergizes with Peira very well. You know, like the Zeo is forced to either push back the Tenebria or push back the Achates, right? So usually drafts go like this: it's Achates. It's Peira first pick, and then you're responding with Yufine Tenebria, or maybe it's Yufine first pick, and you're responding with Tenebria Peira or Tenebria some Ilynav, right? And then if they pivot to Zeo stuff, you can always just make more than one target that is like a Zeo S3 priority, right? So then if you have Belian, you already 3P, you just lock in your damage, right? This is just the guaranteed damage source, especially if they play like ML Celine Zio, right? Like she's one of the safest ways to break through the Celine without critting her, right? So then you have your Achates, and what you're doing is if they S3 your Achates, then your Tenebria is boosted up. Hopefully your Tenebria has higher attack than other units, right? So your 250 Tenebria is boosted up, and you probably win the game that way. Well, if they end up bridging with like Jacko and Taeyou and stuff, right? Just disrespect the Taeyou, because he can only kill one, so he has to choose between killing your Belian or killing your Tenebria. And if they kill your Belian, it's fine. Your Tenebria plus your Aureus Yufine with rupture damage should be enough to kill them. It's just like demotic aggro 1-for-1 trade stuff, right? That's what I realized. You're doing a lot of trading when you're 3-picking Belian. Like you're sacrificing the rest of your comp and being like, yeah, I have enough damage. Hopefully I'll survive this hellstorm, right? So
I have a question for your Belian.
I think, yes.
Sorry to interrupt. So I know that you're kind of going for like a more just pure HP bulk, like straight up just bulk, right? A lot of players, especially because of Aria, they opted to play a little bit of like an ER Belian, or at least having some subs on there, right? Did you at any point maybe try playing an ER Belian or considered it at any point?
Yeah, I had an ER Belian, and then I realized I could get 2k more HP, so I greeted for the 2k HP. Yeah, I had a higher ER build, but I think like I was looking at how much I can squeeze HP wise, and I had some like higher HP rolls on these like non-ER gear, so I was just like, yeah, swap it over. The ER, I think it's okay versus Taeyou, right? But besides that, like it doesn't interact with much because you're still fighting the Zio. So that's my take on it though, because like if you have enough ER to, let's say, you're ER stacking with Aria and her, and you would be resisting the green Litica, then that would be value too, right? So that's a higher threshold that I guess I couldn't reach. I could only hit the 90, I think, ER checkpoint, so I just gave up on it.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. Speaking of though, like because I freed Luna from pre-bans, this season I also really had to just ungear some weavers, right? Some units that didn't matter. Like DN isn't high gear prio or anything, so yeah, I put like a decent mid speed gear on Achates. This allows me to have the. Oh, was I on a different build? I don't know. Maybe I was on a HP ring. Possibly. Yeah. I ended up with this Achates, re-geared for the Perdition recently. But yeah, I liked the higher HP Achates just because we're talking about Belian Achates 3-4, right? Versus the Zio. The Zio player usually plays Taeyou. And if you have the ER to resist Taeyou, because let's face it, like they're not running effectiveness, right? So you just need the ER to resist the Taeyou S3. And then the other ER, like realistically, if there's Zio S3s or Achates, like you probably won the draft anyways, because you should be boosting up another unit of yours, right? But let's say they have to S3 something else instead because they're trying to kill your Tenebria quickly or something, right? Then this bulk allows your Achates to survive the Taeyou S1 when you're not death broken, and that's super huge. Because then you can boost up your Belian or your Tenebria if they opt for another kill target, right? And you probably win the game that way. So I found that the bulk is way more necessary fighting Lunas and fighting Zio aggro than the ER is.
For sure, yeah. I briefly mentioned it earlier, but like 3 days out, I was like, shit, I need to like make a second Achates because like there's so many
Mhm.
times I need a high ER one, and then there's like those cases, like you said, fighting like Luna or Zio, and having the Idol's cheer tech was so value. And one thing that
Yes.
someone in the chat, Gino, mentioned is like, especially when you pair it with Belian, like you want to like have your Belian sometimes attack tuned as well, where if your Belian can
Mm.
kind of like push up, if you have like a little bit of a faster one, he also can get a lot of value out of the cycling as well.
Yes, yes.
Yeah,
Um, Attack tuning Belian. I don't know if I did that.
you definitely did
Yeah.
not, but
No,
you know.
I did not. Oh well. Let's see some other units that are high impact. Oh, this is just kind of MLM because I was dying to DJB AROS, so dude, I would never advise anyone to do this to put units back on speed set over Prot to try to tank it out because I mean you deal with the DGB inversion, but then you don't have enough support for the rest of your team. So maybe there's just better ways to deal with DGB.
I mean, I'm glad you brought that up
Um,
because I feel like in this season when DJB, like I think like maybe 2, 3 weeks out, DJB FCC was such a strong like 1, 2 together, or sometimes like 2, 3,
yeah.
right? And it almost forced people to, kind of be scared of picking a prot knight because they can get so much tempo out of a DJB, right? Which is why like you started seeing people come up with weird stuff like this, or like a blue Krau, right? Blue Krau on
Yes.
on Aureus with his passive without
Yep.
prot set, right? That was the more normal answer, right? Of course, Ace Trainer's making
Mhm.
an LRK on speed set, but to each their own, right? So just to cover that point.
Yeah. And I still think like DJB is keeping a lot of openers in check, right? Like, now that Conk's out, and Hangai is pretty good again. I
Hmm.
think, when you go double openers and you have to fight potentially DJB, you're forced to not take Aureus maybe, and then you have two openers, no Aureus, right? Your team is pretty squishy. So, DJB is just surviving through a lot of pushbacks, discouraging a lot of buttons. So, yeah, he'll be pretty good value versus Conk as well in the
Mm,
upcoming season.
right, right.
Um, what else did I wanted to mention? Oh, I think because uh, we're talking about DJB, like I really prioritized Tori gear still in the last season, where if they're playing Aria or ML Poly or Luna, like in their first three, I'm just slamming Aros 3P and then Tori. Like
Hmm.
just no questions asked because that's a draft where they have so little tempo, and the only thing that could save them is ML Celine. But if I have Peira already, or I have another opener now, Conk, right? I really don't care about what they go when they're already going slow. There's not much that can stop this sort of Tori Aros combo. This is still just the tried and true combo. We're seeing it less now because certain units got buffed, right? But in the previous season, like, yeah, you can proc the inversion, right, with their DJB, but then Aros supplements another shield after you proc the first one. So usually there's no good way to take back the tempo after you committed to Aria plus Luna or something when you're fighting a sort of opener Peira versus, and then like Tori Aras. So yeah, I think she's still like pretty valuable in drafts if we end up seeing more anti-fix damage. But for now, she's
Hmm.
kept in check by the form of Celine and MLK Run
Hmm.
that just recently got buffed. So
One thing to mention that I think you didn't mention yet is there's a specific reason why you have such high attack, right?
yes.
And the reason why you want to have really high attack on the Tory is because, and have no HP substats, as you can see that he has, is because you want that barrier to give you as much value as possible to survive, right? The higher your attack, the shield is scaled based off your attack. And if you're at least 4.7, when you get a kill with the Windrider and whatnot, you're going to be able to tank 3 hits with that barrier. So that's why a lot of players that specialize with picking Tori in those setups want to have that really high 4.7, 4.8 plus attack. Just to add that on.
Yeah, thank you. That's a really important interaction, right? I guess I'll just mention Aras because we're talking about Tori, but yeah, he doesn't have like any really good gears or anything. Effectiveness is important. Res is not. Just go 0 res, man. Just go effectiveness, like. Yeah.
But do make sure that your Aras is slower than Tori. Just
yes.
Just if you are watching this, Tori, if we're ever in a situation where you're gonna pick Tori Ras must be at least, I would say, 11 speeds lower than Tori. Because if he goes before your Tori, you're gonna lose out on a lot of value, right? So
yeah, not freshing the immunity just means death for your Tori, right?
Yeah.
Okay, let's see what else I really wanted to mention. Oh, I ended up making this like slower Senya because to fight certain BBK cleaves or cleaves involving strays when I have Ilynav, just because like if they end up playing more AoEs, like Water Hua saw some use, right, with the Aram synergy and the Amid synergy, and it's just just pumping out damage onto your side of the draft. And what's a good way to survive? Well, Holy Sack is a good way, and punishing them from hitting too much of your backline is a good way, right? So usually then you would be backlining your Abyssal Yufine or something like that. And I mean, this is kind of copium because I just don't have a second 3F, right? But I mean, you don't really need that much speed on the Bright Senya. You just are trying to survive the turn, and as long as you're not like 100 speed, because you're fighting the Swift boots buff, right? And they're gaining CR. So as long as you're like just some speed, it's okay if you're HP boot. The damage is a lot more important to then tank stuff and fight back.
Yeah, just having the speed set in itself with the HP boot is already enough. But like just pointing out, like you have some pretty crazy HP gear on this, like 48, 40, 41.
Yeah.
Like that's a lot of HP, man.
Yeah, it just has no speed sub, right? So you don't have much value in terms of me putting it on anyone else. So it's just okay. I just put it on her,
Yeah, but that ring, you need to keep that shit hidden, dude. I'm gonna be honest. What the fuck is that?
You don't like that one? Dude has HP subs. Come on. Shit. Who else saw some use? Well, I tried Landy versus Tenebria, right? But then you're playing Landy. That's the issue, right? Like when you're fighting Rupture, they don't care about. They already have damage, dude. Like as long as they strip your Landy and she doesn't outburst too much, like she's probably still dead versus the Tenebria, right? Buff stacking cheese just doesn't work because they rupture you and then their DPS just keeps hitting you, and their DPS is also resilient. And now even more so with Kayron and Sermia buff, right? So this is whatever.
Yeah.
I'm so sad Landy's just like so phased out of the meta.
I tried running Landy to buff stack versus Tenebria as well, and then I realized after one game that they just fucking hold S3 until the next rotation, and then they just fucking kill you after. But yeah, on like the like 4 days out, there was like quite a few people that were trying to do just like Elbrus WinCon versus the Tenebria, and I was like, bro, we need to keep that shit hidden, dude. Like it's not it. Yeah.
It's copium.
Yeah.
Although Amiki had some. We were talking about like what happens when you only have one tooth, right? And Amiki obviously needs tooth, and I've been putting Uberis in this 7th anniversary artifact selector because her Uberis was featured with Luna, right? Now she's not featured with anything. This artifact, so it's kind of worth it to use it for selector, because what if they come out with another warrior that's as strong as Peira, right? And they need tooth. So I mean, Amiki is still decently strong in that, like, oftentimes when you're fighting Zio and Eye Celine, Amiki is like a good 5th pick. If you were playing her like 3-4, they end up just taking like Roana plus like, I don't know, there's so many other options, like more, right? Roana, more, GG, right? Like just reset you or, eliminate your counter attacks. It's Jover. But if you're end up playing her 5th pick in the draft where we were talking about like maybe Belian, Achates, and then they just keep pumping out the damage, right? They have to draft to kill the Achates, and then you just fifth pick Amiki. She was still very valuable in that sense. And if they play Tenebria, if they play like Peira Tenebria, sometimes you just gotta Amiki and pray, man. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, this unit can just save.
Well, the thing is,
save
they
some
also
games for you.
cycle so much where it gives you so many opportunities to get just one tag off, right? Because they're basically S1 Swift Boots, like 20 CR every turn, like 10% CR, like dual attacks from Tenebria S1. There's just so much tempo that Amiki actually works in those cases where Tenebria cannot cycle around to get an S3 again, right?
Yeah, but you know what's this demonic is when you're fighting like Zeo Tenebria or Zeo Celine, let's say, and then they pivot to like an Aureus as well, dude. Sometimes their Celine will just cycle back to the S3, get immortality right on the turn that it's your final turn. And you're like, well, I guess I'm fucking dead.
Yep.
So yeah, it happens, right? But usually she's a pretty good matchup versus those Zeo aggro players that are all in, right?
Yeah.
What else? What else? Is there any units you wanted to ask from me that you feel like I haven't covered yet?
Bro, this is your review, man, not mine.
All right.
Oh, this
Sure.
one you need to keep this shit hidden, bro. Why does your defense start with
Really,
a
you
one?
don't like this one?
Yeah,
You don't like this one, huh?
Your defense starts with a one? What is that?
What's wrong with this defense, buddy?
Oh my god,
Shit.
dude. Do you know
Wait,
how she
how
works?
does her passive? I know you get increases defense proportional. Okay, yeah, but I thought it doesn't show in the stat page, or it shows. You're saying?
Yeah, I mean, this is. Did you pick this?
Yes, I picked this.
I see. Did you win with her?
Yes, I've won with her. Yes.
I see. Yeah,
It's
this
that
this
bad,
is.
huh? It's that bad.
I
Bro,
mean,
I see average equipment score 100. I see triple
okay,
digits, bro.
there's a few things wrong here. Attack starts with a 3, defense starts with a 1, crit damage starts with a 2.
Oh my god.
Like,
Can we
what's going
round
on
up,
here?
please? 4K,
Like,
dude. This is 4K,
like
dude.
100 equipment score, but where's
Oh
all
my
of the
god.
stats? Like, what's going on here, dude? Like, I don't know.
Oh my god. All right, we're moving on. We're moving
Yeah,
on.
move on.
But yeah, I would say she's like a decent 3-4 if they play like Luna Tenebria, right? Usually they don't make that mistake, but if they do, you could probably punish with like her on the third pick, right, or fourth pick.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, so I tried to have my Lilibet still be doing some damage and having some defense, but yeah, this is just my Lilibet.
Why are you
230
release
speed.
imprint and overcast? Oh, you're intentionally made it like this? Is intentional or
No,
what?
dude. It's not intentional, dude. It's not even. It's
Bro, keep that shit hidden, man.
Bro, but sometimes you have to pick. Yeah, but it still works when you pick her. But like, yeah, I wish I was a bit bulkier. This is kind of like sad.
Defense starts with a 1. GG. Let's go next.
Dude. But yeah, I mean, the use case to pick her, and it applies even now, right? Is if you're fighting like Aram Litica and you have Eye Celine, then you can pick Lilibet 3, right? You can pick Lilibet 3, and now you can probably play like Fire Ida 4. But before it was just playing like maybe Luna 4 or like something that procs the ARAM, right? So it could be Celine, it could be Flan or something like decently resilient to keep up that damage, right? But
So I guess I have a question for you, right? So like as like a more like I would consider you like a standard player, right? A very standard player, like
yep.
standard flex, right? Obviously with the meta being so fast, did you like find yourself often having to be the aggressor, like playing a little bit more tempo yourself? And if you did, like apart from Peira, which we've covered a lot of, like did you end up playing some Immortal Lua? Did you end up playing any Litica? Did you end up playing like Amid? Did you ever find yourself in those kind of spots?
So I tried to play Amid in the last week, and I realized like they could end up just speed imprinting versus me. I had a 3-12 Amid, I think, but yeah, I didn't like playing the Amid as much because maybe it was at times gear checking with SBA, and you need to build stuff like Hua, right? And my Hua might not be the best. It's
Yeah, I mean you're missing a fucking boot, so.
All right, it was this though.
I see.
But yeah, like it's like a lot of gear checking that I also had Kise prepared. with the A mid, right? But as you see, I cannot do triple torrent. So yeah, A mid out of the question. I was sometimes playing Aram just to kind of play it alongside Luna as a deny pick when I saw first pick a Yufine, because I just, if they're playing Peira and I deny the Luna and the Aram, then I feel like I'm in a good spot, right? But so sometimes, yeah, I would be playing more of that aggression. I had Lua on a bit of faster gear, but yeah, I sometimes saw myself playing Lua to maybe versus Veronica first pick, right? Like just it's clear, it's so clear what they're doing, right? Frida stuff or yeah. So sometimes it is like that, but most of the time, what I consider aggressive is just stealing the Tenebria and defending her with your life, man.
Yeah, that's valid.
Just trying to get that CR that way, but yeah.
How about Zio? Did you play much Zio this season?
Oh yeah, so I was playing Zio if it was open and they were playing a bit greedy, or I realized that like after talking to Winter Wish that even if Harsetti is up by the 3-4, if you're second pick and they pick some dumb stuff in their top 3, you can still Zio on the 3-4, right? Zio fights through Harsetti. Zio bridges anything through Harsetti. As long as they don't already have Aria, I think your bridge options are still very flexible with Zio. So yeah, like if they were being silly in their early picks, sometimes even if they were playing DJB, right? Like, but not much mit, not much resilience, then yeah, you capitalize that. You play Zio, and the safest bridge with Zio would be Taeyou, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I have Taeyou like this. But yeah, I found that like the high F Zio is still super important. Just whenever they're getting rowdy with things.
Now, something in our DMs that you mentioned to me was playing prot set Aram. Would you like to share to the world why you think prot set Aram is so good?
All right, I'm defending this decision with my life, dude. So, yeah, when you're fighting Harsetti, when they pivot to Harsetti 3P, right, and they have Flan and stuff, especially now that it's such an opener-centric meta, you're picking stuff like Peira, you're picking stuff like Kangai, you think you're having a good time in your first 1-2 picks, and then shit, they slam the Harsetti down, bro. You are taking prot Aram and you are defending your Conqueror, or you're defending your Adin with your life. So you're not playing Aureus, because at that point, Aureus is completely outweighed by the value of Aram just giving that immunity and giving like more of tempo with the S3, right? So yeah, she serves as a copium version of a knight in the Harsetti 3P matchup when you're 3-4. When you have to pick 3-4, you pick her, you pick Adin, you're gonna have a good time. No.
I see. Well, you already know what I said about the prot Aram, so I'll just leave it at that.
Sure. You don't want to share it with the world, huh?
No, I'm good. Those are Discord only words.
Keep it in the DMs, yes.
Yeah.
Oh, speaking of, right? Because I'm a villager, like I found Adin to have so much value too. I just put like besides the ring, obviously that could be better, but yeah, this speed and this attack allows me to even bridge now with my conch, and when you're picking her maybe on the 3-4, you're insulating yourself versus Harsetti matchups, right? You're discouraging AoEs. If they're tanking down with Ilynav instead of FCC, right, in the early picks, their Aureus commitment, right, then Adin has a lot more value there too. So yeah, if she didn't exist, I don't think the Conqueror buff would be as much value, just because like if you're fighting Conqueror, you can always pick Harsetti Flan, no? So yeah, like her existing just allows you to basically be way more resilient in the villager matchup.
So something I want to add on as well is and I don't know if you did or not, I'll let you comment, is that especially like this meta, there was so much AoE sometimes where they would pick like a Yufine or like a Belian, right? even Lidica S2, right? Did you find that like Aiden on this kind of build would suffice in those kind of settings? And did you pick Aiden versus like on the 4 or 5 versus Lidica or versus like a heavy AoE team like I mentioned with the Yufine and Belian?
Yeah, so versus Yufine or Belian, yes, I would. I would definitely just pick Aiden. Even
Hmm.
into FCC, sometimes I would just pick Aiden because she just supplements the damage, right? Her chip damage is not that splash when she has vigor isn't the main drawing point. The main thing is how fast she injures and how fast she cycles to her next S3, right? So I would still be picking it into Yufine or Belian, but versus Lidica, no. I think that's kind of demonic. Like I think I tried it once, and then I think I won versus Higo once with it. Tuned into his stream, and he's like, "Dude, if I just hit my 50% there, I fucking won." And I'm like, "Shit, he might be right. It's time to move on." You know.
Yeah, that's true.
So what else did I want to mention? Oh yeah, we were talking about how like maybe MLC Phantom Politis not seeing much play, right? I would say, yeah, I didn't really pick her. Usually, when I fought against her and people, is picking it early, I would have the idea of just, okay, we can DGB this and we can just pick either an Ilynav or an FCC because I think it's some sort of cheese. When they're
Hmm.
picking ML Poly early, they don't want you to, stack your, let's say, ML Kron nowadays, right? But before it was just like to deny the Flan, maybe to deny like SSB or
Hmm.
Sage Vivian. So it was just like those units that are kind of like fringe DPS picks that Emma Poly is discouraging. So her best ally was probably like Flan, and they're just trying to stop you from picking units that are like decent DPSs into Flan. So that's why they're eliminating the focus. But yeah, like if they're picking her, I mean, chances are it's just kind of like a standard aggro-ish flex draft, and I never saw much success when I was playing her. So I just I just kind of gave up
Hmm.
playing her myself.
Right. Now, I think
Oh,
something
and
I. Oh yeah, go ahead.
yeah, I was just gonna say like, Aras Tori just beats her. Like, if they play some stuff like, unless you're fighting like Peira, ML Poly, and then they flan you, like, just if they're just having Poly and you have Peira, just play like Tori.
Hmm. I definitely feel like Politis this season was more of a reactionary pick rather than a proactive pick, as we've seen from previous seasons, just because of the fact that like Tori, and there's just so many more ways to deal with her now as there was before, compared to before. And the metas obviously has, gotten a little bit different as well.
Yeah.
Now, a question I have for you that you briefly touched on is a lot of people, I think, that are watching this and that will be watching this on YouTube probably had a nightmare playing against a mid. And you briefly mentioned about,
Mm,
Yulha, Ilynav, and stuff like that. So could you maybe walk through like your maybe thought process on some of the things that you prepare to fight against a mid players this season that you had success with?
yeah. So a few things, right? First off, if they play Peira early on, they're probably not playing a mid, but you take the Aureus Aphine just in case, right? If they early pick Aphine, they're probably a mid cleaving you with like Zeo Harsetti pre-ban, right? So then in that case, I would be taking Luna early and maybe Ilynav early, right? It's kind of a luxury if, let's say, your first pick and you take Basarunka. It's very likely that they let you have Basarunka because they're an Amit player. So in that case, then you can actually 3P the Ilynav. Because guess what? You're having Basarunka, prepare to be cleaved by Amit. Even now, right? It's very likely if they're
Hmm.
pre-banning Zeo Harsetti, they're
Hmm.
an Amit cleaver, even during
Hmm.
preseason. So like you have Basarunka, then they AU Fiend plus let's say a Yufine Poly, right? And then I would have my tanky Luna prepared and this Ilynav to where she's just the safest Aureus holder to fight against the Zeo or not the Strays or the Summer Hua, right? Because Summer Hua's S1 is like penetrative damage. So then this is when the demonic tech comes out, right? Wukong, if you look at his passive, is 60% pen resistance, and you need him to have the highest HP, because guess what? When you're 2-3, and you picked 8 Ilynav, then they're playing Amid Strays. Fuck the bullshit, right? So it's actually stronger if they played Amid Kise, Judge Kise, but I don't know why so many of them didn't do that, because it was just so hard to block the Death Break into skill reset and such, right? But okay, so they strays you, but if you make Wukong your highest HP and your Ilynav is soaking up some of the damage too, then their strays does nothing on the S3, right? So this artifact is literally just for more crit resistance, so that you're at 80 plus the Ilynav passive, right? So the strays actually can't do any damage. Now I've tried some other demonic techs that worked before, but Amid's Gab and C damage buff is just too much, right? I've tried the Terranar Guard, and obviously that doesn't work out too well. It's just better to not be affected too much by the damage rather than trying to reflect it back. But Yulha is is the final bastion option, right? And I just put it on Adamant because it stacks with the Ilynav damage reduction, sort of, right, on the passive. So she's higher HP than the Ilynav that you pick third pick. Now this only works if they allow you to have Ilynav third pick, right? Because if you didn't have Ilynav for the passive, Yulha would just straight up die. With any other Aureus Knight, like Krau or something, even if Krau had Adamant, your Yulha would just fucking die to the C damage strays gap. So it's only because strays is just very slightly affected by the Ilynav, right? Then you can reflect back the damage if they banned the Wukong, right? And so also this allowed you to S3 and probably kill off their Yufine anchor once she revives from the Holy Sack. So yeah.
Have you tried Assassin Cartuja?
Well, I tried Cartuja for another matchup that he got MLM me into.
Oh Jesus!
I was asking around, dude. I was checking his E7 GG Victron style, and I saw like revival SS kept farming him, and I saw 3P Cartuja. I'm like, what the fuck is going on? And I checked the stat, and it was Destro, bro. So I copied it.
Oh man, keep that shit hidden, man. Keep that shit hidden.
So, anyways, I just copied that revival guy for no reason. Anyways, so I didn't try Cartuja for the strays case. Is there much success with it or not?
I see. Did you have any other units that you wanted to kind of cover, or do you think that kind of like sums up majority of the units that you had?
Oh, I guess I'll just cover some of the knights quickly. FCC, I think, still is one of the highest priority knights right now because the meta is still centered around the splash damage that we talked about, right? Now we have Fire Ida having that splash damage. But before her buffs, it was Peira and Luna. The fact that Luna's buttons are held hostage by FCC's buttons, in that you need to seal FCC to actually have impact on your Luna S2s. But if you seal FCC, she just transfers the buffs back, right? So it's a very even sort of, game of chicken. So that's where FCC stands. And I would say what other knights are pretty important. Yeah, I guess those are all the knights that are important. And then in terms of RGBs, I am, let's see. Oh yeah, I would say Flan. I didn't cover enough, right? Like, because I play a Harsetti matchup, right? Like, I need a Flan that tanks stuff and fights through the F10A artifact chip damage. So I know that, we're talking about how strong Zio is with Taeyou, but a lot of times when you're playing like a flexible sort of aggro, you want Flan or you want Zio Flan instead of Zio Taeyou, because you don't know what they're going to pivot to, and there's no good way for you to deal with Flan. So you're just picking it because she's like one of the stronger source of damage with the Zio comboing. But for that, you would need 250, right, to fight through, let's say, if the opponent has a Yufine. But with my Flan, because it's like kind of like a best of both worlds. And I wanted to now synergize with like Peira and also Conf, right? I would like 250 speed, but then I would have too little bulk. So this is kind of the happy medium I settled on. I saw that Light has like 2 Flans. Wish I could be like that, but
I
no, I
also have 2
cannot.
plans.
All right, you guys are both demonic, but you didn't even have Harsetti open. So,
You know, I
dude, why do
did
you
have
have 2
Harsetti
Flans, man?
open for like a week after Aram came out,
Yeah,
and I was losing all my fucking hair. And I was like, yeah, fuck this shit. I'm out. Like, I'm gonna go back to fucking Harsetti pre-ban. Like, fuck that.
yeah. Yeah, it's not for the faint of heart, just accepting speed RNG, being like, oh yeah, I mean, one of their 4 units, the only one that could win in this rotation, got the turn before me. What can you do?
Yep.
You know. Oh, ML Poly, I think I don't, or sorry, Fire Poly. I didn't pick DPS Poly at all, but Degen Poly, you see a lot of matchups with it because I talked about how like versus Amid, if they maybe mess up in the draft, right, then you can kind of disrupt them with your 3P. And that's why like Aureus Yufine early on is helpful because if they don't steal the poly, then let's say they pick like what Flan, Amid, right? They're playing Peira first pick, you pick your Yufine plus Luna or something, right? And then they pick like Flan Amid and they want to kill you down with Flan. Well, guess what? A huge check to Amid is the Fire Poly, and you have Aureus Yufine, so you can just 3P Fire Poly and probably take like a Sermia now or a Kayron, but before you would take maybe just like Solly, right? Or something that supplements your Luna damage, right? You're just trying to disrupt their draft. So I picked this Degen Poly a ton. And I know some people have like ER or Prot set on their Degen Poly, like KHM has Prot, but I didn't find that case to be super important, right? Because it was just Prot so that you stop the ML Poly from playing, where you would have Lua to Silver. And it's just a weird niche case, right? So I just put like faster speed and high effectiveness to maybe even stun Amids, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Aram shouldn't be on counter set, should really be on speed set, but it's okay. What else? Trying to think. I don't think there's much. I think that's it. Yeah. Oh, I guess finally Mort. I don't think like he's that good even versus Albert Yufine because you can easily mess up the draft where you have too little damage because they can pivot to like Tori or they can pivot to like Fire Flan. But if you take the Fire Flan or the Tori, maybe you're dying to DGB or ML Celine. So I think Mort usually gives up the tempo unless you have some clear like either Aureus or really strong tempo already in your draft, right? Then maybe Mort has some value, but otherwise, yeah, sometimes you could just still lose the matchup with Yufine.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess in summary, I would say like, yeah, my account is pretty well-rounded in terms of like a mix of like bruiser and some mid-speed DPS gear. I'm pretty happy with how it is, and this season is looking slightly more fun just because of how strong Sermia is and Conqueror. But if we think about last season, right, it's all about just adapting to the core units of Peira, Amid, ML Celine damage, and Tenebria debuffs stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, that's cool. So, thank you for showing us all of your units. I think I'll ask you a few questions, and obviously, chat, if you guys have any questions for Ace as well, feel free to ask. But some of the ones that I
Mm.
prepared is kind of about the new season, right? I know you've been playing a lot of the new season so far recently, and I kind of want to just hear like what your thoughts are on the new season. I know you briefly touched on it
Mhm.
multiple times throughout this review, but how do you feel
Yeah.
about the season overall, the new
The future
characters,
of
like
the
who are your
wind
favorites,
tribe.
things like that?
Okay, so I would say this season overall, ML Celine has less impact than previous seasons, where like I used to pick DJB ML Celine, right? And I would say now on the 3-4, if you're picking DGB ML Celine, you could probably, very likely die to MLK Ron. like this season so far is a lot more damage and a lot less debuffs. It's all about taking either Peira or Conqueror alongside either your Mitt or um, your, let's say, yeah, it's usually like Peira plus an Aureus or Conqueror plus an Aureus. And if they end up playing Luna debuffs, you can always play Hangai later on, or you can always play ML Celine or DJB later on. So those units that just focus on debuffing, like thank God, Light Tenebria's reign is over for me, at least. I think she'll still come back for these very high speed seeded players. But in terms of right now, like Tenebria doesn't offer or even Luna doesn't offer as much value as like a DPS that synergizes with Peira or Conqueror. Like you are trying to boost up your team, not have them have much CR, and even if they have a little bit, then maybe you play like Yufine, Elber stuff, right? But you're trying to insulate your draft in the beginning to where you're playing an opener, you're playing Aureus, and then you're tanking their honorable damage, whether it's Senya, whether it's ML Celine or Flan or even Kayron. You're taking their honorable damage with your buffs, with your openers, and then you're considering, okay, should I be debuffing them later on, or should I just go balls to the wall with my damage, right? So like some example maybe I'll show is like this sort of draft where, okay, so you have Peira first pick, they play like Luna and Yufine, that makes sense, right? And if you end up playing Aureus early on, when you see that they have no CR manipulation, you're probably setting yourself up for failure, because yeah, you can play Aureus, but you haven't committed to a win condition yet. So if they haven't committed to CR manipulation, you should just take the advantage and take the aggro right now. So instead of Aureus and opening yourself up to dying to, let's say, DJB or dying to multiple damage sources, it's better to just take, let's say, a disrupt in the form of, Hangai or Conqueror, any of those things, and see how they react, right? And then you have your honorable damage sources versus theirs, and you can probably fight through stuff. Now, if I'm trying to see other example of games. Yeah, so like I've been playing this Ilynav Conqueror a lot, right? Because the synergy with Conqueror is you just want to stabilize against Sermias, right? So you take the Ilynav so that you don't die to Sermia, and then they end up playing like some Mitts plus Disrupt, right? As we were talking about the importance of that versus your openers, and then you end up playing a response pick if they committed too hard to the disrupt, and then you're playing like maybe a neutral DPS right into their disrupt, something that's resilient. There's so many resilient DPSs now thanks to the balance buffs, right? So you can take your pick of ML Kayron, but obviously you wouldn't take Kayron into FCC, right? So it's just about those micro interactions and how do you have more resilience in your DPS and your responses versus them, right? So I think it's a very fair sort of buff stacking meta right now, and I'm pretty happy with it. So yeah.
Okay, you have a lot of hit words like resilient and like honorable damage. Can you maybe explain like what you mean by resilient and honorable damage?
Yeah. So resilience is just how much, let's say, survivability a DPS has in their kit, right? So we talk about like MLK having resilience versus Tenebria because he has like buffs that interact and buff stack against the Tenebria. He also kind of just shakes off a lot of debuffs besides Luna's, right? Like if you're spending so many turns debuffing him, unless you get a death break, right? And even with a death break, maybe the opposing the draft has cleanse, so then he shakes that off too, right? But it's just about like shaking off the debuffs with the cleanse and having that built-in damage mitigation, right? With maybe other units that have resilience would be like ML Celine, right? That's the most obvious one where she has that damage limit, right? The damage can exceed 50%, and it interacts so well with Aureus, right? But maybe with Senya, it's just the fact that she applies immunity on herself too now, right? So she's like a high defense unit, self cleanses, applies immunity. That is crazy, and she can fight through like conqueror drafts if they misdraft. So she's a really good 3/4 DPS pick that has that resilience, right? What else was a buzzword that I was using?
Honorable damage.
Yes. So that's just in terms of damage that is just like, crits, red numbers, no like splash, right? No debuff damage, right? The most dishonorable damage to me is like SBA or something, right? Or strays. It's like a lot of other effects besides just the damage, right? But if it's just like, they do a high amount of damage, but it's tankable, right? Like Sermia's, it's just that, right? It's just straight up damage, no other gimmicks involved. So this is a meta where you're playing Conqueror or you're playing Peira, and you're tanking all those straight up just damage sources, right?
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So if we can maybe go look at your heroes, and maybe you can just kind of fly through the ones that were recently buffed. Maybe just quickly let us know like who you think are the winners of the patch, and who people should be, maybe moving their gear towards and preparing as they want to play in this next season. Go ahead.
Sure. So I would say Conqueror is one of the heroes that if you can achieve 310 conk while gimping some of your units, right, you can drop the speed of Peira. Peira is kind of just like a DPS at this point, right? You're playing Peira with like DGB and stuff if you're fighting Conqueror. Like trying to race the Conqueror and trying to win in terms of, just a pure race, I think it's kind of a risky play if, you're fighting a good draft anyways. So yeah, Conquer if you can have some of your fastest gear on while maintaining bulk, maybe even immunity, because especially if you let Harsetti open, those Harsetti S1 into Flan duels, that is an important immunity check, right? Besides that, though, maybe this is the stat line you're aiming for. You can even drop effectiveness to 30 to get more HP or more speed, right? So yeah, even if you don't have a 300 speed Conqueror, though, like the fact that she can carry Sweet Miracle and how much impact she has in the draft, like a good draft can allow a 280 Conqueror to shine, right? That's how Alifton was originally the GOAT, right?
Can I just add a comment? Like, I don't understand how you have a 25 helmet, but your speed is
Yes.
300. Like, you're like, what is wrong with you?
So, dude, you want to see something though? So if you see my speed on my right side, 18 speed is my fastest. So if you buy those gear packs, you would be at the same speed as me.
Yeah, this is keep this shit. All right, carry on.
Okay. Anyways, another unit that's like a huge win is Senya. I kind of greeted mine because just Destro HP or sorry defense boots, right? So it's not as optimized, but I don't think the speed matters as much as like the damage and the bulk. So I would say if you're struggling on like upping the speed, it's okay to hover like 160, and it's way more important to have high defense immunity to maybe force the Conqueror to press her buttons in turn one, and then you have some ways of dealing with those buttons in the form of DJB or hand guy, right? And so yeah, I think her ability to even break through Ilynav when you have the Conqueror, I'm thinking about like if let's say you're fighting Peira and they play like Ilynav, right? And then they end up playing Flan later on. You have Conqueror buttons, and then your conk presses first, and you have that higher defense. You can penetrate Ilynav's mitigation and still win. So I think she's a clear winner. Some other clear winners would be. I actually think like ML is very hard to deal with right now. So the fact that if they end up playing openers that don't strip, and you just have like kind of a high HP, you really don't need the crit, honestly, because most of the time you're playing it into either Senya or Flan, right? Honestly, as long as you're not fighting Conqueror plus Aiden, or you're not fighting Senya and Conqueror, then like Kayron is one of those DPSs that just can tank a lot of stuff, and is a pretty safe 3/4 pick. And this is kind of just a cheese artifact, but yeah, you probably don't need the crit and just go like way higher HP. So that's also a clear winner. I'm trying to think some other units that got buffed. I would say Hangai. I put on my Laya gear, and I'm still trying to figure the artifact out, but he has now the perfect sort of balanced kit, because what was missing was how much utility he has after he presses S3. Now, because he can penetrate defense, he is just after the, we talk about this meta being so much splash damage, right? So after you chip the Dark Aiden or the Flan, he can just like kill them. And most of the times you're fighting those DPSs when you're fighting Luna or you're fighting Conqueror. So his like EE just made him meta relevant again versus Luna. So that's a pretty clear winner. I forgot the rest of the units buff.
Sage
but
Ball,
I would say
Festive
those.
Ida, Spez.
Oh yeah,
right?
yeah.
Come on,
Okay,
man.
so my bad, G. Hey, my bad, G. So this is the GOAT design wise, right? This is the real hand guy, but he
Design-wise.
sucks. He sucks, man. This is the pity party for people who remember chasing the AOLs, man. Like this is the fucking pity party favor. But yeah, he's not relevant at all because there's the anti-pen from Ilynav, and if you have the Ilynav, it's probably better to just play Sage Ball, right? Like he has too many conditions that other units don't, and this is still an opener dominated meta. So like if you end up getting those stuns off, you might have attack down on your spaz or something like that. So yeah, not worth it. Sage Ball, I actually see a good amount versus like Eye Celine or Amid when you have the Yufine anchor, right? When you're fighting those units and you have Yufine, I think yeah, he can actually kill Peira pretty well if you're tanking out the initial sort of combos. So I think his buff is pretty good, but he just has some niche cases, right? And I would say Ida. I was testing out Ida a lot when she first was buffed. And okay, ignore the ring. I think I have a ring problem. That's the recurrence here.
What the fuck?
But dude, it rolled HP. Okay. Anyways, yeah, like I think because Hangai got buffed and Conqueror got buffed, Fire Ida is overshadowed because you're relying on her to not bridge anyone with her kit, and to then, a unit to capitalize off her death break. Well, it's kind of like a Biblis situation where, you can death break and then you hope that Senya combos and that's about it. Because like all these other units, right? They already have death break in their kit, like your DPSs besides Flan, maybe it's like Celine, but she already has a lot of damage, right? So it's like, okay, well, you're wanting people to capitalize off her death break, but they can just end up playing Hangai, or they end up punishing your AoE because they have the Flan or they have the Aiden, the Dark Aiden. So I think like she's just okay. Like she's just completely overshadowed, and she's kind of weak into Luna, obviously, but yeah. So yeah, I would say it's just the light heroes that really shined. Conqueror and Senya, and then Kayron and Hangai.
I see.
But yeah, have you played much in the preseason? No, right?
I played a good amount.
Okay.
To I think that Festive Ida has more potential than I think you've
Oh, really?
you've tested. Yeah. Like you should try running like a 30k HP one. Like I've been running a 30k HP one and it's
Uh,
been pretty interesting. because when they aren't super tanky, like that fixed damage just fucking wails them, and then they just kind of die. So
Interesting.
it's
Okay.
maybe worth exploring in your I know you're going for Hall of Fame, in preseason and everything.
Jesus
But
fucking
you
Christ.
could, maybe give it a try if you want to give it a gander.
Sure, sure, dude. But how fast is your ETA
Like
for your
230.
30K? Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
I'll try it. Yeah, once they put me in the Hall of Fame there, like I'll shout you out for the ETA
Oh
type.
yeah, yeah. Sounds good. Sounds good. Yeah. All right. Well, I mean, I'd love to ask you more questions, but you just yap really, really long. So this video is already pretty
I
long.
did,
So,
yes. All right.
before I let you go, do you have anything you want to say to the people? Where can they find you? What should they do? Any services that you might offer? The floor is yours.
Yeah. Yeah. You can just find me on twitch.tv/AceTrainerE7. I, as you can tell from my account, mostly try to adapt to the meta and play pretty flexibly. It's an opener centric meta right now, and I'm having fun with my slow ass openers still, right? So you can see how like it's all about just reading the meta and playing in terms of value picks, and draft sequencing is probably the most important thing, and that's how you can get the most fun out of Epic 7, at least in my experience. And yeah, I try to stream maybe 2 to 3 times a week, and I do offer, coaching. If people are interested, feel free to check out my Discord. And yeah, I mean, in real life, I'm like kind of a therapist, so I try to use some of those skills to support clients that reach out to me with the coaching stuff, right? To really, um, ask them questions, have them self-reflect to improve their gameplay. But yeah, that's it for me, I guess. Thank you
So
for
like,
having me, dude.
if someone like asks you to like for like coaching, right? Like, could they
Yes.
just like pivot that into just like a therapy session that's on discount or no?
Uh, no, no, because I try to separate the game from real life work stuff. So if they're having a mental breakdown, I'd be like, shit, dude, I can't practice in your country or area code. So here's some references. Like here's some other resources.
I
Yeah,
see, I see, I see. Okay. All right. Well, thank you so much for coming on and doing the account review, and glad to see that you were able to end Legend once again. And that's like what, your eighth season, seventh season, or how many frames do
I
you have now?
forget. I
Someone
don't know.
to
I
be
need to
made an
check this.
example of.
Let's see. Dude, I'm so sad I missed out on that red frame though. All right, let's see. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, I guess 10th. Cool.
Wow,
Anyways,
congratulations.
yeah,
Damn,
thanks for
10th
having me.
season.
Yeah.
All right, thank you
Yeah,
so much for
congrats
your
to you
time.
too, man.
Nah, that's nothing
Clutched it.
special, dude. Nothing special.
All right, yes. Thank you for having me, and see you around, dude.